All right, I've had a short break. I hope you've had a longer one and are ready to continue with parsing transformed sentences. The second video lecture talks about sentences formed by the existential there transformation, sentences that use the expletive it, passive transformations, and then sentences with multiple transformations. There is also a transcript to accompany this video lecture, so I hope you will print it out before watching this lecture. All right, let's start with the expletives there and it. Curzon and Adams discuss existential there and it sentences in a question to discuss on page 186. The existential there transformation occurs only with sentences with the be verb, and its occurrence demonstrates the English language's uneasiness with the adverb phrase functioning as predicate adverb, which is nearly always an adverb of place. The existential there transformation involves rearrangement and insertion. First, move the noun phrase functioning as subject around the be verb. Second, insert there into the original subject position. As noted in our textbook, this there is not the deictic adverb there. It is the expletive there, an expletive being a placeholder like the zero in math, like auxiliary do in negative or interrogative sentences. Because there is merely holding the subject position, it is not the logical subject of the sentence, only the grammatical subject. The logical subject is now in the predicate. Let's parse a sentence to see how this labeling looks. Instead of uttering the sentence, magnolia trees are on our campus, we are more likely to produce the surface structure, there are magnolia trees on our campus. There is the expletive, E-X-P-L. Are is the be verb. Magnolia, adjective. Trees, noun. On, preposition. Our, determiner. Campus, noun. Moving from right to left, our campus is a noun phrase functioning as the object of the preposition on, which heads a prepositional phrase functioning as an adverb of place. Now we have magnolia trees, a noun phrase which doesn't really belong in the predicate, but here it is. So it is the logical subject. Our be verb is present tense, and there's our predicate. Verb phrase functioning as predicate. Then we have left the expletive there, which is in the noun phrase slot. That it functions as the grammatical subject. It's just holding the subject spot. It's not really the subject of the verb are. There is labeled as an expletive. It is in the noun phrase functioning as subject slot, and it functions as grammatical subject. So there's an existential there sentence. Expletive it transformations are evidence of the English language's preference for predicate-heavy rather than subject-heavy sentences. We rarely hear sentences with lengthy noun clauses in the subject position. The expletive it transformation results in an extra position. In other words, it moves the noun clause out of the noun phrase functioning as subject slot into the predicate and fills the noun phrase subject slot with expletive it. Expletive it functions as grammatical subject. Now, in the predicate, the noun clause functions as both logical subject and either noun phrase complement or adjective phrase complement. In parsing, the surface function is labeled first. Analogous to the expletive there transformation, expletive it requires rearrangement and insertion. Move the noun phrase functioning as subject around the verb. Insert it into the original subject position. This it is not the personal pronoun it, but the expletive it, holding the subject position in place of the logical subject. Let's modify Curzon and Adams' sentence from that new information tends to occur in the predicate is commonly accepted to that new information occurs in the predicate is common. That bulky noun clause in the noun phrase slot functioning as subject is too heavy to the tongue. So the expletive it transformation produces, it is common that new information occurs in the predicate. Sounds more natural, doesn't it? Now let's parse that sentence. It is the expletive. Is the be verb. Common is an adjective. That is the subordinator that, introducing a noun clause. New is an adjective. Information is a noun. Occurs is an intransitive verb. In is the preposition, the determiner, predicate, noun. Moving from right to left, the predicate, noun phrase functioning as the object of the preposition in, which heads the prepositional phrase functioning as an adverb of place. So now we've confirmed that occurs is an intransitive verb. It's followed only by an adverb. Occurs is a main verb in the present tense. And here we have a verb phrase functioning as predicate. New information is a noun phrase functioning as the subject of the verb occurs. So we have a clause here. And rather than being a sentence, though, this clause has been subordinated by the subordinator that. So this is a noun clause. It's in a noun phrase slot. It's in the predicate. It follows an adjective. So it functions as an adjective phrase complement, and it's also the logical subject. So it has a dual function. It has a predicate function, surface function, and a deep structure function. Then we move to common, which constitutes an adjective phrase functioning as a predicate adjective after the be verb is, which is in the present tense. And there is our very long predicate. Is common that new information occurs in the predicate. And all that leaves is it in the subject slot, but it's not the logical subject, it's the grammatical subject. So the expletive it, noun phrase functioning as grammatical subject. So it's an unwieldy predicate, but that's the way English likes it. The logical subject now has a dual function as complement in the predicate, so we label it with its dual function and we label its surface function first. In the surface structure, it's in the predicate. This is its predicate function, adjective phrase complement. Now, you might just want to take a deep breath before we move on to the passive transformation, which creates the passive voice, changes the active voice to the passive voice. While it is one of the most common transformations in the English language, The passive transformation is also one of the most complex, requiring 4 steps to change a sentence's voice from active to passive, and including an optional 5th deletion step that may raise an ethical question. The passive transformation operates only on deep structures with a transitive verb, VT, VC, or VG. Those are our 3 transitive verbs. Those are the only ones which can operate in a passive transformation. Transforming a sentence in the active voice to a sentence in the passive voice requires rearrangement, insertions, a change in verb part, and an optional deletion. First, you move the noun phrase functioning as the direct object, or the indirect object, or the object complement to the front of the verb, from the predicate to the front of the verb in the subject position. Then you move the noun phrase functioning as subject to the predicate and insert in front of it the preposition by. Then you insert auxiliary be into the main verb and change the verb part to the past participle form. And then optionally, you can delete the by phrase that you've created for the extraposed subject. Let's apply these steps one at a time to this sentence modified from page 189. And these steps are in the transcript of the lecture. We're going to start with this sentence modified from page 189. Homework takes all my free time. We move the noun phrase functioning as the direct object to the noun phrase functioning as subject slot. And we get the ungrammatical sentence, all my free time homework takes. Unless you're Yoda, I think. Then you move the noun phrase subject to the predicate and head it with the preposition by. And we have another ungrammatical sentence, all my free time takes by homework. Insert auxiliary be into the main verb, taking on the tense of the main verb. And another ungrammatical sentence, all my free time is takes by homework. Then we change the verb form to the past participle and we get a grammatical sentence, all my free time is taken by homework. Then if you want to, you can delete the by phrase. If you don't want folks to know what's taking all your free time, you can end up with the sentence, all my free time is taken, implying that it's something much more glamorous than homework that's taking your time. Oh well, okay. And there you have it, the most common but most complex transformation in English grammar, which in all of its complexity takes place almost instantaneously in our miraculous mental lexicon. Now, let's parse this sentence, all my free time is taken by homework. All is a determiner. My is a determiner. Free is an adjective. Time is a noun. Is auxiliary be. It's followed by a transitive verb in the past participle form. By is a preposition and homework is a noun. Moving from right to left, homework is a noun phrase functioning as the object of the preposition by. By phrase is a prepositional phrase functioning as an adverb of agency. The subject of a transitive verb has the role of agent. So when we move that agent into a prepositional phrase headed by, it becomes an adverb of agency. Is taken, our main verb, is present, is present, passive. Auxiliary be followed by the past participle of the verb take. This is the only time you will see be followed by a past participle is in the passive construction. And this is our predicate. Is taken by my homework, is our verb phrase functioning as predicate. All my free time is a noun phrase. It's in the subject slot, but it's not the logical subject of the verb take. The logical subject is homework, which is now demoted to the object of the preposition by in this phrase that serves as the adverb of agency. So the noun phrase is the grammatical subject, like those expletives, there and it. How do you like that? The subject has now been demoted to the object of the preposition in a prepositional phrase that functions as an adverb of agency. Further, that phrase could be deleted entirely, and the former noun phrase, functioning as direct object, is now in the subject position as grammatical subject. Talk about a change in emphasis. What's important here? Not the agent, but the object. The object or patient of the transitive verb is more important than the agent who performed the action on the object. In fact, the agent may not be of any importance at all. The passive transformation does not change the meaning of the sentence, but it does change the emphasis, which may be important in stylistic analysis, which is what Unit 3 is all about. Sometimes the result of the action really is more important than the agent. The homework was assigned by the instructor, or the homework was assigned. The instructor is not as important as the homework that was assigned. Sometimes the agent is unknown. My homework was stolen. I wish I knew who did it, but I don't. Perhaps an agent does not want to be known for a magnanimous act. $1 million was donated to DBU's Presidential Scholarship Fund. Being relatively unimportant, being unknown, and being modest or humble are all ethical reasons for deleting the adverb of agency from a passive sentence. But what about trying to protect the guilty? Do you remember the Watergate scandal and the statement, 18 minutes of the tape recording were erased? When encountering a passive sentence with a deleted by phrase, be aware that there are both ethical and unethical reasons for its deletion, and this too may be important in stylistic analysis. In passive transformations, the mantra, the way it was is the way it is, may become even more important, especially in the parsing of sentences with ditransitive verbs, VG and VC, because either of the two constituents following the verb can be moved into the subject slot. So you may not be able to determine the function of the constituent remaining in the predicate without undoing the transformation and going back to the deep structure to look at the way it was so you can determine the way it is. Let's look at an example for both VC and VG. Okay. The new Chrysler is called the PT Cruiser. The is a determiner. New is an adjective. Chrysler is a proper noun. Is auxiliary be. Called is a VC verb, and this is its past participle. The is a determiner, and we're going to treat PT Cruiser as one proper noun. So moving from right to left, we have noun phrase functioning as the object complement. Take my word for it, I'll explain it in a minute. Then we have our main verb, which is present, is present, passive, auxiliary be followed by the past participle. And this is our verb phrase functioning as the predicate. And the new Chrysler is our noun phrase functioning as grammatical subject because it originally came out of the predicate. How do we know what to label the noun phrase, the PT Cruiser? We know that the main verb is passive because passive is the only structure in which auxiliary be is followed by the past participle. But where's the by phrase? It doesn't matter. Whoever did the calling is not important, but let's restore it so that we can take the sentence back to its deep structure and determine the function of the PT Cruiser. The new Chrysler is called the PT Cruiser by someone. Now, when we reverse the steps from passive to active, the deep structure of this sentence appears to be someone called the new Chrysler the PT Cruiser. Now we can determine that the PT Cruiser is the noun phrase functioning as the object complement rather than the noun phrase functioning as the direct object. It's the noun phrase functioning as direct object that has been moved to the noun phrase functioning as subject slot. And because the way it was is the way it is, the PT Cruiser remains noun phrase functioning as object complement, even though the noun phrase it complements no longer precedes it in the predicate. So that's an example of a VC verb in a passive construction. I've borrowed some VG sentences from exercises in Max Morenberg's Doing Grammar. So let's look at VG and see how the passive works with that ditransitive verb. Marine recruits are taught the values of the Corps by their DIs. Drill instructors, I don't know. Okay, Marine is a proper noun functioning as an adjective. Recruits is a noun. Are is auxiliary be. Taught is a VG in the past participle form. The is a determiner. Value is a noun. Of is a preposition. The is a determiner. Core is a proper noun. By is a preposition. Their determiner. DI's proper noun. Hope you can read that. Oh well, you've got the transcript to look at. It's nicely typed there. Moving from right to left, their DI's, noun phrase, functioning as object of the preposition by. The preposition by introduces a prepositional phrase functioning as an adverb of agency. The Corps is a noun phrase functioning as the object of the preposition of. This prepositional phrase is adjective or genitive, and it patterns with the value. And I think that should be the values. Yep, it should be. Okay. So this noun phrase, the values, serves as the head of the larger noun phrase, the values of the Marine Corps, that functions as the direct object of our main verb, which is present passive. And that's our verb phrase functioning as predicate. And then Marine recruits is a noun phrase functioning as grammatical subjects. Grammatical subject. Okay, so we know that the subject of the deep surface sentence was their DIs. Let's back this out. The original sentence was their DIs teach the values of the Corps to Marine recruits. When we back it out, we can see clearly that the values of the Corps is the direct object of the verb. teach. But since there are two constituents in the predicate of a VG verb, either one of them could have been moved to the grammatical subject slot. And so let's see how that would parse. So, okay, the deep structure could have been transformed to the surface structure. The values of the core are taught Marine recruits by their DIs. So let's parse this one. Determiner, the, values is a noun, of is a preposition, the is a determiner, core is a proper noun, are, auxiliary be. Now this is getting kind of sloppy here. Taught, the past participle of a VG verb. Marine, proper noun, functioning as adjective. Recruits, noun, by, preposition, their, determiner. DIs, proper noun. Moving from right to left, their DIs, noun phrase functioning as the object of the preposition by, which introduces a prepositional phrase functioning as an adverb of agency. Marine recruits, noun phrase functioning as the indirect object of the verb are taught. And so we have our main verb is present passive. And here's our verb phrase functioning as predicate. The core, noun phrase, functioning as object of the preposition of, which introduces an adjective or genitive noun phrase, prepositional phrase that patterns with the values, which is the head of the noun phrase, the values of the core, which is now serving as grammatical subject of this sentence. In this case, the noun phrase functioning as indirect object remains in the predicate and remains the indirect object, while the noun phrase functioning as direct object moves to the noun phrase functioning as subject slot and becomes the grammatical subject. It might sound a little more natural to say the values of the core are taught to Marine recruits by their DIs, but that would come from the deep structure. Their DIs teach the values of the core to Marine recruits, where to Marine recruits is a prepositional phrase functioning as adverb of reception in the predicate and remains there as such. Well, if passive transformations of ditransitive verbs aren't confusing enough, just wait until I tell you that a deep structure sentence can undergo multiple transformations. Not just one at a time, but several. So let's look at a couple of sentences that have undergone multiple transformations and parse their surface structures. Okay, for example, a deep structure sentence can undergo both negative and interrogative and passive transformations. The possibilities are practically endless, especially if you set transformations alongside the 8 possible combinations of tense and aspect in the status of a main verb. Can you imagine a negative, interrogative, conditional, passive with a main verb having both perfect and progressive aspects? Even though it sounds like a parsing nightmare, you've probably spoken and understood such utterances. Let's look at a couple of slightly less complicated surface structures. Here are a negative, conditional, interrogative sentence and a negative, conditional, passive sentence with a perfect aspect. Yeah, simpler, she says. Okay, here's our first sentence. Why couldn't the Rangers start a rally? Why is one of those interrogative proforms. INT-PRO, you could add ADV if you want to for clarity. Couldn't is contains both the modal and the negative. So we can label it like this. Couldn't, the modal and the negative constitute the auxiliary. I think I've labeled it twice in the transcript there. Okay, the ranger's determiner, ranger's proper noun. Start is a transitive verb, and A is a determiner, and rally is a noun. Moving from right to left, a rally, noun phrase functioning as the direct object of our verb, couldn't start. So let's link the parts of our main verb together, and then we can determine its status as past. Could is the past form of can, and it's interrogative because the verb is disjoined and because we have a interrogative proform there too. Okay, so past interrogative. Negative does not appear in the status of the main verb. It's just in the auxiliary there. The rangers is the noun phrase functioning as the subject. And then what are we going to do with why? Where did it come from? The rangers could not start a rally because, for some reason. So why is an adverb of reason, and it belongs in the predicate. Now we can identify our verb phrase functioning as predicate as consisting of couldn't start a rally. Why? Okay. Oh, I left something out of the verb, didn't I? What does this modal auxiliary do other than contain the past tense? It also changes the mood to conditional. So the status of the main verb is past conditional interrogative. So here's a sentence where the main verb has two moods. I'm sure that's exciting for you. Let's end this lecture with one more sentence that has undergone multiple transformations and see what we find this time. And it's a literary sentence, so maybe you'll appreciate it. Walt Whitman's poetry may not have been appreciated in his day. Okay, Walt Whitman's is a proper genitive noun. Poetry is a noun. May is a modal. Not is a negative. And they form the auxiliary. You can label them together or separately. Have is also part of the auxiliary, if you want to do it this way. And then been is also part of the auxiliary. But you need to notice that it is the past participle. And then appreciated is a transitive verb, and it's the past participle. Okay, what's left here? In is a preposition, his is a determiner, day is a noun. His day, a noun phrase, functioning as the object of the preposition in, and in his day is a prepositional phrase functioning as an adverb of time. Now, let's look at the status of this main verb. May not have been appreciated. All right, first thing we're going to talk about is the tense, which is present. May is a present form. Then we're going to talk about aspects. We have plus the past participle, which is perfect, okay? And then we have conditional mood, also in the modal auxiliary, and then we have passive voice. Auxiliary be followed by the past participle. Present, perfect, conditional, passive. So we have tense, aspect, mood, and voice. Okay. Present, perfect, conditional, passive. Yes. And so that's just a note for you. And then, may not have been appreciated in his day, is the verb phrase functioning as the predicate. And that leaves Walt Whitman's poetry as a noun phrase. It's the grammatical subject. Whoever did not appreciate his poetry in his day is the logical subject, but it was in a by phrase, and it's been deleted if we knew who that was at all. Well, you get the idea. It can get complicated. If at first you can't figure out the parsing of a sentence, try untransforming it to the deep structure sentence or sentences that are positive in orientation, statement in form, indicative in mood, and active in voice. And if that doesn't work, submit your questions to the Parsing Q&A in session 11 on the discussion board. Thank you for your attention. God bless you with extra endurance for session 11. And I'll look for you in the Parsing Q&A. Thank you.